Art has been one of humanity's greatest tools for expression, and nothing has been more central to art than ourselves. From the earliest carvings to the grandest frescoes, the depiction of human in art represents our evolving understanding of who we are, what we believe, and how we connect to the world around us.
In this journey through art history, we will explore how human depiction has been changed during the time and whether some aspects like culture, spiritual, or societal has transformed them and changed human depiction. So we will discover whether they became more realistic or symbolic or idealized. So let's take a look at some portraits or sculptures and know what has happened. Now I'll take you back tens and thousands of years ago to the Paleolithic era, the times when our ancestors started to create the earliest forms of art known to humankind. Spanning from around 2.5 to 10,000 BCE, this era marked humanity's earliest creative expressions, reflecting survival, spirituality, and community. The depictions were found in forms of cave paintings, carvings, and small sculptures. Let's start with the most iconic depiction of human from this era, the Venus figures. These were small sculptures that were created tens and thousands of years ago, and they were remarkable not for their realism but for their symbolism. The Venus figures had exaggerated body parts such as the large breasts, hips, and belly that represent fertility and reproduction, qualities highly valued and important back in Paleolithic era and until nowadays as well. The Venus figures lacked facial expressions and details, and this suggests that the focus was not on individuality but on the broader concept of womanhood and life-giving power. Now I'll talk about a specific example of a Venus figure, a Venus of Willendorf, that was found in modern-day Lower Austria. This Venus figure also lacks facial expressions and details. Instead, it has an interesting pattern on her head, which represents either braids or a specific headpiece worn back in time. This lack of personal identity suggests that someone specific didn't pose for these sculptures. They were rather made for representing the general female figure. Also, the emphasis put on specific body parts, such as the large breasts and wide hips, suggests that they might have been talisman used during rituals to ensure successful reproduction and the continuation of the community. The figures, the small sculptures, were made from limestone and they were covered in red ochre. And this choice of the red color was not random, but red was the symbol of fertility and the general power of womanhood back in Paleolithic era. Now let's continue our journey and move to India, where I'll speak about the Bhimbetka cave paintings dating back 30,000 years. We can see a hunting scene taking place. The hunters are depicted in simplistic and stick-like form, which tells about the fact that the people who carved them didn't put the emphasis on representing specific body parts and the anatomy of the people. They rather valued representing the hunting process itself and the action that was taking place during this hunting. The hunters are represented with weapons and armed. And one specific example shows a hunting scene with a group of hunters going after a herd of deer. This is a clear depiction of how and using what the hunters used to hunt. These Bhimbetka cave paintings might also have a more deep and symbolic meaning. They might have been created during old rituals that were taking place to celebrate a successful hunt or to honor a specific animal highly valued by our ancestors. These cave paintings tell us a lot about life back 10,000 years ago, how hunting used to take place, and how our ancestors lived and survived throughout the harsh conditions and the challenging environment. From these early depictions of life and survival, we now move to the timeless artistry of ancient Egypt, where symbolism takes on into a new level.
From the raw symbolism of Paleolithic era, we now step into the world of ancient Egypt, where human depictions became structured and symbolic, reflecting their deep beliefs in balance, in order and the connection between life and the divine. Egyptian art was never just about creating something beautiful. It was a deliberate expression of power, spirituality, and external extents. For example, let's look at one remarkable artwork that illustrates this perfectly. It's the wall painting from Tomb of Nebaman. This piece shows Nebaman, a scribe and official, enjoying a sense of prosperity and abundance that he hoped to carry into the afterlife. In the painting, Nebaman is standing on a potter's boat, like throwing a stick to hunt birds. His pose is dynamic, with his arm outstretched in an action, symbolizing his control over nature. Pay attention to how his body is depicted. Like most Egyptian art, it follows the composite pose. The torso is shown from the front, while the head and legs are in profile. This wasn't done for realism, but it's mainly done for completeness. Every important part of the body had to be visible because painted in a rich reddish brown, a color used to convey vitality and the strength. What makes this painting even more fascinating is the symbolism in the figures around him. Nebaman is the largest figure, not because he was physically larger, but because size reflects importance in Egyptian art. Behind him, his wife sits elegantly, and his young daughter is shown below, holding lotus flowers. They are smaller in scale, emphasizing Nebaman's prominence, but their delicate poses and graceful details and intimacy to the sense. Together they represent the joy of family life, which maybe Nebaman wished to experience for eternity. So this artwork is not just a hunting sense, it's a visual story about order, symbolism and hierarchy. Nebaman is idealized, depicted as confident and timeless, embodying the Egyptian belief in Met, the concept of balance, harmony and natural life.
Our journey through art history takes us to ancient Greece, where human depiction took on a new form, celebrating naturalism, movement, and individuality. Greek art makes a significant shift, as artists sought to capture not only the ideal, but also beauty, emotions, and realism of human experience. Through their long and varied history, Greek depiction of people have changed and evolved from primary paintings on pots to intricate, anatomically correct statues. Greek art was divided into 4 periods: geometric, archaic, classical, and Hellenistic. But today's discussion will be mainly about archaic and classical periods. One notable example of archaic Greek art is the Kouros statues, which depict young male figures standing at upright and rigid pose, with one foot stepping forward and hands straight at their sides. It reflects the influence of Egyptian art, which is evident in their symmetry and posture. Statues are nude, emphasizing the human body as an ideal form, which is a central concept to Greek culture. Despite this, you can notice the archaic smile on their faces, a fake smile which was meant to give them life, but lacked the emotional realism. All these characters you can see in the example of New York Kouros. This Kouro is nude, celebrating human body as a symbol of youth, strength and beauty. As we move to classical period of Greek art, we see a significant shift. Almost everything that we consider characteristic of archaic period has changed. The figures no more looking directly to the viewer, as they are unaware of audience. And instead of archaic smiles, they have more passive and calm facial expressions, making them more natural. A key example of this change is Doryphorus by Polykleitos. The statue exemplifies the contrapposto pose, where the weight is shifted onto one leg, creating a natural curve in the body. The stance gives the figure a sense of movement and balance, breaking away from the stiffness of archaic Kouro. The muscles, bones and proportions are more accurate, showcasing Greeks' deep study in human anatomy. Despite the naturalism, the statue is idealized, representing an unattainable standard of male beauty, strength and athleticism. The Greek art, particularly during the classical period, revolutionized the depiction of the human form by combining naturalism, idealism, and intellectual depth.
The Renaissance was a rebirth of artistic ideals of ancient Greece, and we can see them in a rediscovered way and transferred way. When we remember about Greek culture, we can say that they showed the perfection in a way of harmony and proportion, but in Renaissance art we can clearly see emotions, individualism, and also some scientific approach. Renaissance art began in Italy and it is rooted in religious themes, so we can usually see a representation of life there. And as they are most like people, humans depicted there, artists, famous artists like Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci has to study this anatomy of humans, and some of them even go to investigate dead bodies of people to know more about the anatomy of them. One of the most remarkable and famous examples of Renaissance art is Michelangelo's David, and we can see 70 feet tall sculpture which is like really delicately made. We can see like muscles of this sculpture, of this character, veins, and how beautiful is carved the fingers of him. And also when we look at his facial expression, we can see he's kind of thoughtful. This is because the portrait it was depicted when he was about to go to war, and we can see him standing in contrapposto pose, which is similar to Greek culture. Also, when we look at his facial expression, we can see this focus and determination, and also overall the sculpture is representing not only the power like in physical way, but also in mental and moral way. So now we'll talk about another masterpiece of Michelangelo, and this is the creation of Adam. Here we can clearly see the realism, emotions, and spiritual meaning. So there is Adam in left part of the fresco, and he is lying, and we can clearly see the muscles, the veins, and stretched body, which is giving a realistic view of him. And also the same way is painted God. And the thing is that here we can see the mixture of spiritual divinity and humanity, because the Adam and his whole character is representing human with its all details like body details and also facial expression, like the calm and relaxed way of staying. Now about the God. God is surrounded with angels in this fresco, and we can see him in a human body, the same like muscles, veins, and these delicately made physical features of him. And this is like representing the divine connection between the physical and spiritual realms. And this is the thing and the key component of Renaissance, because it is the mixture of humanity's physical perfection and spiritual significance.
By the time we reach the Baroque period, human depiction in art becomes an incredibly dynamic and emotional experience, breaking away from the restraints of the earlier eras like the Renaissance. Baroque art captures the complexity of human condition, the passion, spirituality, and emotion, all brought vividly to life. The Baroque art, which flourished from the late 16th to the mid-18th century, emerged at the start of the Counter-Reformation. The Catholic Church used art as a powerful tool to inspire faith. This mandate shaped the way humans were depicted in this period. Baroque artists rejected the balanced and idealized perfection of Renaissance era, and instead added more emotion, contrast, and realism. The figures were no longer static or posed. Here, we see figures with emotion and energy. The faces were showing ecstasy and devotion, while the bodies were showing more urgency. The light here becomes a central character. It isn't just illuminating the scene. It was representing the Holy Spirit, the cross, or the God's glory. In general, it was a symbol of the divinity. The use of chiaroscuro here heightened the focus on human emotion, creating the theatrical effect that drew viewers into the scene. The figures don't just look holy, they feel real, as if they're real people caught in extraordinary moments. For better visualization, let's take some examples, such as the Saint Teresa's Ecstasy by Gianni Lorenzo Bernini. It is showing the exact moment when Saint Teresa was having a divine vision and the angel pierces her heart with the golden arrow. What's remarkable about this artwork is the way Bernini depicts Saint Teresa's humanity. It is not idealized and passive, but is depicted as someone who is experiencing emotional transcendence and physical sensation. You can see how she feels the divine vision that she sees. However, the angel above her is more serene and delicate. It is the perfect contrast to Teresa's intensity. This artwork radiates emotion, and plus the combination of different art forms such as metalwork, sculpture, architecture, painting, and stained glass creates the powerful emotion that this artwork gives. Now let's take a look at the very different but equally dramatic artwork, which is The Triumph of the Name of the Jesus by Giovanni Battista Gauli. This is showing the moment when the name of the Jesus with the monogram IHS radiates the light. Unlike the Renaissance art, where the central character was the physical presence of the Jesus or the Virgin Mary, here the light itself becomes the focal point. You can see that the saved ones surrounding the light are approaching to the heaven, while the dimmed ones are disappearing in the dark and chaos. The figures here are full of life and emotion. You can see how they're swirling in different directions and showing different emotions. Gauli used a couple of techniques such as trompe-l'oeil or chiaroscuro. With this, he extended the figures beyond the fresco's borders, and with this 3D effect creates an illusion as if the figures were falling down into the church itself. This mixture of real and painted space is a brilliant innovation of Baroque art. It turns a flat ceiling into a heavenly drama and drives the viewer into the scene, and they feel like they're part of this heavenly drama. Baroque art changed completely the way humans were depicted in this period. They are no longer idealized or static. They're more real and relatable, as if they are people who are caught in extraordinary moments. The Baroque art pushed the boundaries of human depiction and reminded us that art is not just about what we see, it's about what we feel.
Throughout the ages, the depiction of humans in art has been more than just a visual record. It's a reflection of how we see ourselves, our place in the universe, and our deepest fears and hopes.
From simple symbols carved on stone to dramatic, lifelike portrayals of emotion, art reminds us that humanity is both timeless and ever-changing. These depictions are not just about physical form, they are about the stories, beliefs, and dreams that define us.
As we look back on this journey, it's clear that art has always been a mirror of human spirit. And as long as there is a creativity and imagination, the story of humanity through art will continue.
From simple symbols carved on stone to
Human depiction in art becomes an incredibly dynamic and emotional experience.
The emphasis on
Չեմ տենում ես բանը, դա գցում համ քյորաստում, համ փոքրելա չեմ տենում։
Ըստ այս սոված եմ, սա կողես միկրոֆոն, դες սոված։
Շատ դժվար էր ինձ։